right, we are live. We will give a couple of minutes for everyone to join. Intern Matt, please tune in so we can get at least one viewer, please. Give this a repost here. This should be live on the Post-Gazette. All right, let's come back over here. Give like 30 seconds for people to pop in, and then we'll start going.
11?
Yep.
12?
Don't disclose. 12,000.
Well, we just started it. I mean, people are filtering in, yeah.
There we go. We're building up here.
That's fine.
All right, we'll start in 10 seconds.
I missed the collared shirt email, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, dress down.
All right, I think it's time to get started. How's it going, everybody? Noah Hiles, Andrew Destin, and Jason Mackey coming to you on another glorious Skenes day here on the North Shore. Paul Skenes set to take on. Who is it? Who's on the mound?
James Paxton.
James Paxton. Sorry, that's that kind of vibe, right? It doesn't even matter. Nothing else matters. It's Paul Skenes day. Coming to you live here from PNC Park, about an hour and 40 from first pitch. Going to answer some questions. Going to talk some ball. Before we get to any of that, we have to talk about our show's presenting sponsor, which is the North Shore Tavern. If you love baseball, you'll love the North Shore Tavern. The interior is wall-to-wall Pirates. There are appetizers, entrees, cocktails, and, of course, steak and seafood on a sizzling lava stone. Open every day. The North Shore Tavern is across from PNC Park and is Pittsburgh's home for steak on a stone. All right, guys, so everyone who's tuning in, please feel free to comment a question or, discussion topic here, and we might get around to it. But I think before we get into the chat questions, I think we should start off by just talking about yesterday. Jared Jones, 6 shutout innings. The Pirates beat the Dodgers 1-0. Tyler Glasnow, obviously, his return. Andrew, I'll start with you. Your thoughts just on yesterday's win?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something I wrote about a little bit, but I think Jared Jones kind of showed what people had hoped Tyler Glasnow could be when he got called up 8 years ago.
Albeit like a foot shorter.
Yeah, albeit a little bit shorter. But, there's some similarities there. They're both called up as 22-year-olds, and Jones is basically taking the bull by the horns, but especially just doing it. You guys were there talking to him about it post-game. This is a team that he grew up rooting for. He really took the moment in stride, 101-mile-an-hour fastballs, execution. Guys in the Dodgers clubhouse were perplexed by him, called him effectively wild. Whatever you want to call it, Jones was really good. And that was really cool to see. It was a great pitcher's duel in general to watch.
Yeah, he was undaunted, I think I would say. Jones won his grandfather has ties to the Dodgers. I'm not sure what. I talked to his high school coach a couple of days ago kind of about this process for Jared. You guys will have read that story by now, I hope. But, I think post-game he said he went to like 60-some Dodgers games, or maybe that was something Jimmy, the high school coach, said. But I was curious how he was going to come out against his childhood team, and we saw it.
Yeah.
3 101, 2 of those to Mookie, 1 to Shohei Ohtani. My man was fired up, and, geez, I just – you think about going 6 shutout against the Dodgers in one of your first starts, he's still so young, and we're forgetting that because of how much he's able to change start to start. And I know you were in Detroit and saw him struggle, have his worst start as a pro, acknowledge it, say he's got to get back to the drawing board. And you wrote about this a little bit. He got back to the drawing board. He fixed it. The changeup was probably the best it's been all season, and it was outstanding.
That's my big takeaway. I mean, my 2 takeaways from Jared yesterday was the beginning and the end were phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, the first couple of at-bats with the velocity against Betts and then against Ohtani, getting him to strike out, and then retiring the final 9 batters he faced, retiring 4 of the final 5 via strikeout. And then, Jason, like you pointed out, the changeup, he only threw it 9 times, but it's when he threw it that stood out to me. Back-to-back against Ohtani.
Yeah.
For a guy coming into that game, that was 6% of his pitches he's thrown was a changeup. And you throw that back-to-back against the best player on earth. That takes some stones. But, I mean, that's Jared Jones to a T. This is a guy who is not scared of any moment, any individual, any lineup. And I think we saw that coming off of his worst start as a pro, as a big leaguer. He came back and he did what he likes to do. He shoved. That's been his MO. That was impressive for me. Another big takeaway, aside from Jones, I thought, the bullpen, that's one of the first times we've actually seen this thing work out the way they had it planned.
Yeah.
You know,
was a good
Holderman,
script for
Chapman, Bednar. I mean, that's how they drew it up when they constructed this team in the offseason. We saw it a little bit in Toronto, I think, Andrew, you and I did.
Yep.
Obviously, someone lost the ball in the twilight, and it led to, 5 more innings of baseball after those 3 were done. But it was an encouraging day all around, I think. So
This team's not going to get where it wants to go or thinks it can go without the bullpen being a key part of it. I mean, to me, that's as black and white as it gets. And it doesn't always have to be Holderman, Chapman, Bednar, but you need productive innings from those guys, some way, shape, or form. Maybe that's Luis Ortiz for multiples. Maybe that's, I have no idea. I mean, it could be Ben Heller. It could be Carmen Majinski. It could be Ryan Baracki when it comes back. I mean, there's going to be a lot of arms, but it's non-negotiable for that bullpen to be solid for them. And they weren't in May. I'm very curious to see how they bounce back from that.
All right, we've got some questions piling up here, but before we get to them, let's just talk about the matchup at hand today. Start number 5 for Paul Skenes. Jason, I'll start with you. What are you looking forward to seeing from Paul this evening on the North Shore?
Actually, something beyond heat and splinkers.
Okay.
As strange as that sounds, I think the book is going to start to get out on him that he's going to throw hard and he's going to throw that splinker a lot. I think they're very good offerings, but if you're throwing those two, people can sit on one or the other. I think Paul is much more diverse than that. I think that's one of the things that we've already seen a year into his tenure, basically, that he can throw spin stuff, he can throw a sinker, he can move the ball around all different ways. And so, I mean, he's been getting by on those pitches. He's been doing more than getting by. But I'm curious to see, like, maybe how the slider plays today, whether he brings that out, what else he has to do in addition to just blowing heat and blowing splinkers. That's so hard to say.
Splinkers.
Well, look at
Splinkers fast.
Well, it's even harder to type because,
Does it
every-
autocorrect?
autocorrects the splinter or whatever. And I'm like, no, come on. I'm on deadline. But
Yeah, my stories were Splinter and Glasgow instead
Yeah.
of Glasgow.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Glasgow. Oh, I remember
Always.
that.
Yeah.
That'll get you.
I'm Scottish.
But what are you looking to see?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Jason, the thing is just I want to see him steal strikes. And, we've seen that happen where he's gone with the splinter and a 2-0 count. But how about the curveball? How about the changeup where you mix it in, go really deep into the repertoire? He's gone pretty much primarily his main 3 offerings. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe that's 90% of the offerings he's thrown, right? He's turned to those 3 pitches primarily, go deeper into that. And I'm curious to see him internalize this moment too. It's a little bit different than Jared, but there's some similarities because, it's another Southern California kid. He grew up going to Shohei starts when he was with the Angels. Obviously, Skenes grew up a little bit further down in Orange County in Southern California, so Angels territory. But still, like, when he faces Shohei, like, you have to think that's going to be a pipe dream, right? Like, that's got to be cool for the guy.
That's the number one thing for me. Is just we saw the tick up in velocity for Jared. And while Paul,
Where does Paul tick up?
that's exactly it. And while
103?
Paul's not like didn't grow up a Dodgers fan like the way Jared did. Paul is an alpha and a competitor, and he's going to be facing 3 of maybe the top 10 best hitters on the planet to start this game.
2 of the top 5.
2 of the top 5, maybe 2 of the top 2 in the National League. So to start the game, so he's going to rise to that occasion. He always kind of has a little bit of extra stuff, like we saw in his debut. I'm excited to see where that velocity goes, and another thing I want to see Paul Skenes get to the 7th inning today. Yeah. I know that is a
that would be fun.
Tall task to do against any team in the big leagues as a rookie, especially against the Los Angeles Dodgers. But, I mean, we've seen him go 6 now. What is it, 3 in a row, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, and I know there's the pitch count and everything like that, but I want to see a little bit more efficiency. I want to see him get into, let's not see them have to go with 3 bullpen arms in a day. Let's see him, make everyone's workday a little easier. So we'll get into some questions now. Thanks for everyone who's tuning in. Again, this is brought to you by the North Shore Tavern. John D has a question. We'll bring this up on screen. Buyers or sellers at the deadline? I know I'm thinking ahead. John, you're really not, though. When you think about it, I mean, this is June. This is when, as they say, the stove starts to heat up.
Yes.
Andrew, I'll start with you. Not what you think they should do, but as things currently stand, what do you think they will do if they remain 3 to 5 games under 500 over the next month?
the lame answer is to say relatively stand pat. I think that's more than possible, but I think it's more likely they're sellers than buyers. And I say that just because I look at the expiring contracts. I look at the likes of the 1-year guys they got on deals, the Michael A. Taylors, Rowdy Tellez's, Aroldis Chapmans. Given where they are currently, given how jumbled up the National League Central is and how jumbled up the National League wild card race is, I have to think that they're going to want to recoup some kind of rewards on the salaries that they've given out. I know, Jason, you've read about this. Roughly all the free agent deals around $31 million. Is that or
32 and a half.
32 and a half.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine they're either going to want some financial aid on that, or they're just going to want to get some prospects in return. Perhaps that's me thinking too deeply into this, but I have to think that selling is the more likely choice at this rate.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree because I don't think they can. I don't think they can sell if they want to. The deals you're mentioning, there's going to be no market for a setup man who hasn't been able to throw strikes, who leads the league in walks per 9 or walks by a reliever, however you want to qualify, who makes $10.5 million.
Yeah.
I don't think you can trade him. I mean, Rowdy Tellez, a lot of people would tell you he should probably be DFA. Michael A. Taylor has played a good defensive center field, but that bat for $4 million, I don't see. But no, I mean, if you're going to sell off, you're going to sell off like
Martin, if he's healthy.
I guess if he's healthy,
right?
But I mean, even that, like outside of the very beginning of April, what are you getting for $8 million? I mean, maybe it nets something, but you're gonna, if they wanted to trade Bailey Falter, I'm sure they could. I'm not sure to what end that makes sense.
Right.
It doesn't. Like
that's basically admitting defeat.
Yeah. So I mean, it's probably an answer of standing pat, or I mean, I'd probably put them in the camp of buyers. And I mean, not big time buyers or anything like that, but I don't think you're going to see a fire sale just because I don't think you can see a fire sale.
And here's my thing. I think they're going to be able to make additions that are not costly and that will improve them. Like, it's not going to take much to upgrade what you have as a left-handed hitting first baseman.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Right.
And that's not me taking a shot at Rowdy. It's just the fact, if you look at the numbers, that production is not hard to find more of. You know,
And the current production is not acceptable.
Right,
Like
exactly.
if you fashion yourself as somebody who's gonna
and like same for outfield bats. I mean, in reality, you have 1.5 hitters who are hitting okay as outfielders right now. I guess 2.5 if you throw Joe in there. Olivares, I would put as like a utility guy, a rotational player. But then you have Reynolds. Like, I think you can go find a guy who can be a platoon outfielder, or just a guy who might be a third outfielder on a team in last place.
Yeah.
Add him in, and just if you can find like a one WAR player in the outfield or at first base, that is an upgrade at those two. Same for the bullpen. Just by simply adding in a fourth guy who's not a rookie. Is value there, and I don't think you're going to have to give up Bubba Chandler to get those things.
Right.
You should be able to avoid dealing really anyone in your top 30 to get. I mean, again, you're not going to get anything amazing, but I think it's very easy to add here without giving up a lot and making your team better. So,
remember last year they gave up Carlos Santana, right? And that was an early move. I mean, that's basically what I'd like to see them do this year. Get that back. Somebody first base. Can play defensive first base, can hit from the left side if he's a switch hitter, great. And that took a kid who was coming out of Dominican Summer League, Johnny Severino. Not a high pedigree Dominican prospect, but like you have to be comfortable dealing with from the lower levels of your system, which I think they will be.
All right, this is an interesting question here from our pal Jim Rosati.
Boo.
No, I'm not going to boo Jim. Jim's great. Lots of noise out there about dead baseballs, and last night showed Chapman thinking he gave up a for sure nuke for it to only get caught in front of the warning track. Anything there, you guys think? Jason, you've been covering this game a little bit longer than Andrew and myself.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Well, I think part of that was the part of the ballpark. But I know it was also 380, so I mean there aren't many parts where that's going to go over. But I mean it was hit in the exact right place for it to stay in the park. I can't say I've seen a ton with dead baseballs being an issue. I really don't. I mean, I understand the chatter and the speculation, but that to me feels more like a ball that was hit in the exact right spot for the Pirates versus some ball that was just dead. I could be wrong, but I have not seen enough of a change for the time I've been on the beat, where I believe dead balls were an issue previously, or juiced balls or whatever.
Then they were the opposite of dead.
Yeah. They were alive.
They were.
I don't know. I don't think offense is that precipitously down across Major League
Homers
Baseball.
are down, as Jim points out.
How much?
I mean, I don't. I'm just.
Okay.
I'm just the man putting the YouTube
All right.
comments on the screen.
But no, I mean, it is true.
I have
Offense
not
is
seen
down.
enough down.
Yeah.
It's to me, I think that's the point. Is that I think this is just an egregious example that people who have the tinfoil hat theories look at and say this validates it because Aroldis Chapman threw his glove and looked like it was a for sure home run. When in reality, I think we're just, if you're looking at law of large numbers, we're slightly outside of the mean or what's supposed to be expected with offense.
Yeah.
The league average OPS is down a little bit. The home runs are down a little bit. I think it's too early to make any kind of widespread proclamations about baseballs being dead or offense being down.
I think it's just tough. I mean, none of us have taken a baseball to a laboratory to have them studied.
Yeah.
So how can we give an accurate thing? I just saying that I have not seen a change that is that big that it's alarming. It was my point.
I am not a numbers guy or a science guy, so we will move it on here. This one comes from Steve. He wants to know, any chance they move Martin Perez to the pen when he returns? Could be a good sixth inning bridge guy. I will say this. I know that Martin Perez did not appreciate being moved to the bullpen last year in Texas.
Yeah.
And I think that he came to Pittsburgh to be a starter. Now, granted, you don't always get what you want when you sign to a team. There are times where, an organization has to make a decision that is best for the collective whole rather than one individual. But right now, I'm not sure Quinn Priester showed me enough as of now that he deserves to be the fifth starter over Martin Perez. And I know Martin did not look great in May, but Quinn Priester has not done enough for me to take his job. Now, that could change before Martin returns from the IL. But as of right now, if he's coming back tomorrow, which he's not, Martin's my fifth starter and Quinn's going back to Indianapolis. Do you agree?
I'm with you. I think with veterans like that who sign free agent deals to come here and you promise them starts, you need to continue to promise them starts. I mean, not, ad infinitum or whatever that is, not in perpetuity. But I think Perez deserves at least to come out of the injury and have an opportunity to start. I mean, eventually, if the performance is not there, do you turn the page? Yeah, maybe. And I think Quinn Priester will get another chance, even on the other side of this. And he's going to have to show more than he has to Noah's point. I don't think there's been enough there. But I think they at least owe it to Martin Perez to give him a chance, a couple starts coming off the injury to find it before they do something with him. And I don't see that making the most sense for them.
Yeah, and also it's, giving it a different look. Otherwise, you're just going 4 righties, 1 lefty.
Yeah, I like the lefty look.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing. There's not many options behind there. Marco Gonzalez, who knows how long we're going to see him. I mean, bet now in the 60-day IL, so it's not like there's another reinforcement along the way. Priester hasn't showed me a ton, and Perez, who's to say that in May he wasn't pitching through injury a little bit? Who's to say that wasn't influencing the downward performances versus a really solid April? So I'd give him 2 starts and then reevaluate.
On the note of reinforcements, I'll throw this one in here. Domingo German has made a couple of starts in AAA. Do we see Domingo German in a Pirates uniform this season? I'll start with Andrew.
Oh man, put me on the hot seat on that one. I say no. I don't see it. My reasoning is not because he hasn't pitched well enough. It's still early in Indy. But I look at it as just there's so many other options that are going to come to the forefront that are rising through the system. Eventually when a Mike Burrows comes back, eventually if the Pirates decide, okay, somebody like a Braxton Ashcraft keeps rising through the system quickly, there's these other names. Maybe they decide they'd rather give Domingo German a shot. But to me, I'd say that is more of a somebody gets hurt that is not currently hurt, and that's a last gasp fire escape method. I don't know. Maybe I'm off.
What do you got numbers-wise on?
All right, so Domingo German so far this season is 0-2 with a 5.59 ERA in 4 games. He's struck out 20 batters in 19 1/3 innings.
Yeah.
His last start, I will say, was his best in AAA. He went, where is it? In his last start, actually, he allowed 1 earned run in 4 innings. But the start prior to that, I actually think he was okay. Yeah, 3 earned runs in 5 innings, struck out 8. So, I mean, not terrible, but I see progress here if you look at it. I mean, the run total's going down, the innings have remained solid, he's getting more strikeout numbers. The walks are high right now. He's only pitched one outing in AAA where he's walked less than 3 batters, so that's not encouraging. But I'll give my answer here now. I do think we see him for no other reason where I think in September, regardless of where this club stands competitively, once the roster expands, I think they will go back to a 6-man rotation simply because it makes sense with the preservation of Jones and Skenes. And I think that this is a guy that can give them 3 innings to just start. I don't think we see him prior to September unless the season goes down the crapper and they start dealing guys or guys get injured or something like that. Or he just absolutely goes crazy in AAA and just goes light out.
The other stuff.
Yes, you said that, not me. But yeah, I do think there is some value there, though, to bring in a guy who has been around teams that have been competitive. If this team's still in the mix in September, bring him up. Just let him be maybe an opener on a bullpen day if you go back to a 6-man rotation. What says you, Jason Mackey?
I think he's up here, and I think he's up here before September.
Really?
I do. Yep. And I think that because Ben Cherington stuck his you-know-what out there to sign him.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you agree or disagree, that was not a small move. And you bring a guy like that in here, not for September depth, but because you think he can help the team. Now, I understand what the stats are now. I understand maybe, starts that are shorter than you'd want, a little bit more erratic than you'd want. The strikeout stuff is there. But we're talking about, guys, the last guy who pitched a perfect game in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Like, strip the personal stuff aside. I mean, this guy is qualified to pitch in Major League Baseball. You would think, has the ability to do that. I think it's only a matter of time before he finds it. Remember how early we are with him pitching in competitive games because of the visa issues being in spring training.
Yeah.
I still think there's going to be an opportunity, and I think they're going to try to get him an opportunity to be up here. I don't know how it's going to go, but I do think we're going to see him.
CL wants to know, do we think Bailey Falter keeps dealing, or is the clock striking midnight sooner than later? Andrew?
I'll preface with this. He will keep dealing, but he's due for some regression to the mean. He's going to finish with a fine season, but I do not imagine him to have a sub-3 ERA at the pace that he keeps pitching.
That would be
Falter.
Yeah, that's not happening. But I don't know. I mean, you look back at his rookie year, I think he had, a 3.8 ERA, something like that? I think that's where he finishes out. He could be something around that, maybe right around 4. So I
only think he threw 86 innings or something.
Yeah, that too. So I think you expand it out. Eventually, the thing I go to is he induces so much fly ball contact, and he's really gotten by with that fastball. Hasn't really been hurt by home runs yet. That feels like that has to come sooner rather than later, especially as teams start to get more data on him, get to see him more. There's some notable changes. He's made tweaks that have really helped him, but I imagine he's going to eventually regress, but I think he's going to be a bona fide member of the rotation the whole year.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I agree with that he's not going to have a sub-3 ERA. I have been incredibly impressed by Bailey Falter, and how much regression is something I've thought about that, teams would theoretically have a scouting report on him, right?
And it's not a complex scouting report.
Know.
That's my thing.
I know, which means he's getting by on execution.
Right.
He's getting by on inducing soft contact. Fastball's up in the zone. The people are just popping out harmlessly. Like, why can't he keep doing that? And not to a sub-3 ERA level, but I think to some degree I'm buying stock in Bailey Falter being pretty darn good.
Yeah, I think I'm Andrew's territory where I think he's good. I don't think he's as good as what we're seeing him.
Yeah.
In May, I think he had a 2.33 ERA. I don't think that's going to continue. I don't think he's only going to allow an average of 2 runs every 5 starts.
Yeah.
Or through 5 starts or whatever. So I think that Bailey Falter, we're going to finish the season and we're going to view Bailey Falter as the best number 4 pitcher this team has had in a very long time, numbers wise. I think he's going to win. He's going to help this team win a lot of games. I think he will have. I wouldn't be shocked if his ERA was sub 3.5, which is
I cover Pirates teams where that would be the opening day starter.
That would be the lone all-star.
Yeah.
So we'll go into that route now here as we got about 5 minutes left. We've talked about this. Let's go to the all-star route. Jason, you wrote a column about this last week, I believe.
Yep.
We're
all fairly in agreement on this.
I don't know if we are.
No.
How many all-stars and who are they?
two, and I think they're pitchers.
Yes.
But I don't have my mind made up whether it's, and I think Skenes will be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have my mind made up on whether it's going to be Jared or Mitch.
Okay. Andrew?
I think that's probably the fair way of looking at it. I'm not ruling out Bailey Falter making the All-Star game.
Man!
I'm throwing that one out there. I threw that out on the fan the other day. I would say Jones and Falter will be mine too. I'm going to go wild card.
Paul.
I'm going to say no Paul just by virtue of he's going to rack up starts. He's probably going to be dominant, but I'm going the route of it might take the fan vote or something like that. Maybe not off the bat he automatically gets on.
That's where I'm at. I think when the original roster's announced, it's going to be Mitch and it's going to be Jared.
Okay.
I just think their full body of work is going to stand out more. But Major League Baseball is going to find a way to get Paul Skenes to Arlington, Texas this summer. And they would be crazy not to, and I don't think it's going to take much. I mean, you think about it in today's All-Star game, how many of the actual pitchers that make that team actually are available to pitch?
Right.
You know, there's a lot of replacements there.
Yeah.
And do they still do like the fan final vote? Yeah. If Paul Skenes is in that fan final vote, I don't care who you're going up against. He's getting in.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. I think Jared Jones actually, ironically enough,
3 Pirates All-Stars? Think about that for a
3
second.
starting pitchers All-Stars.
It's not
when's
crazy.
the last time that's happened?
Oh, gosh.
I mean,
I
don't think that happened in 2013.
I don't know.
Or in that era.
No.
I mean, that's so. I mean, I'm seeing in the comments, Colin Holderman has an argument, but I think a guy like Holderman probably only makes it if no one else on his team does. Yeah. And I just think the starting pitching's too good for them to.
You don't see setup guys unless it's like the Evan Meek.
Or if it's like a Tony Watson where in that year he was on a team that was good and there was like a lot of hype to it. Like, I don't think people outside of Pittsburgh really know how good of a season Colin Holderman's had.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's where I think he gets kind of left out. We got about a couple of more minutes here. Let me scroll through. All right, here's a good question here from Matt. When Bart is healthy, how much of a split does he get with Davis? Well, Matt, I'll start off by answering this. I'm not sure when Bart will be healthy again. That's where I would start. If I had to bet on 2 guys, and we don't do that here. We don't bet here. But if I were, I don't have to. Well, yeah, I do because I'm in the BBWA. Throw Rule 21 out the window for a minute. If I had to bet on 2 catchers who are going to get the most action behind the plate for the rest of the year, I'm probably taking Hank and Yaz. Yeah. Right. I think that Joey Bart is. It's going to be a minute before we see Joey Bart back here again. Do you guys agree with that?
I will slightly disagree.
Okay.
But that's more me. I'm going to go real tinfoil hat theory here is that I think Yaz might not be the guy who goes the entire way.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. It might be Hank and delay.
Yeah. I'm not ruling out Hank and delay. I'm not ruling out that Joey out with the left hand injury, that after a month or so out, that maybe he comes back and he settles back in maybe mid-July or something like that. Again, that's more speculative on my part than anything, but you're asking a lot of Yasmani Grandal to get through the whole season unscathed after what he dealt with in spring training, after what he dealt with through the beginning of the season with the hamstring pull there. I think we see Joey Bart again, but to the question of how do you split up the time, I think a 50-50 split with a slight lean towards Davis, if those are your 2 catchers on the roster at that time.
I mean, I think Hank Davis has to be their priority.
Yeah.
Right? Don't they have to play him and give him the opportunity to learn, to grow, to find his swing? I mean, if he's hitting 140, then obviously you're going to act accordingly, right? But you can withstand some turbulence there, I would think. I don't know what happens with Joey Bart. I don't. And that's one of those things where I don't have to make a decision right now and I'm not going to. And I think that's probably the way the Pirates look at it. Yasmani Grandal, who knows what happens? I think he probably went into the season, you sign him, you hope that he performs well, and then you trade him at the trade deadline. Maybe that happens. Maybe somebody's looking for something like that. But at this point, I find that hard to believe. If that deal comes to fruition and they end up finishing the season with Henry and Joey Bart, I think that makes sense.
All right. I think that's all we got for today. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, the show is brought to you by the North Shore Tavern. If you love baseball, you'll love the North Shore Tavern. The interior is wall-to-wall Pirates. There are appetizers, entrees, cocktails, and, of course, steak and seafood on a sizzling stone, as Jason mouths those words because he's read this script as many times as we have. Open every day. North Shore Tavern is across the street from PNC Park and is Pittsburgh's home for Steak on a Stone. He's Andrew Destin. I'm Noah Hiles. He's Jason Mackey. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you after the game. Check out all of our work at post-gazette.com and keep tuning in to the Post-Gazette Sports Now YouTube channel and podcast network. Take care.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.